Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the My Two Cents podcast, presented by and hosted by G2. I am G2. This is episode 254 of the podcast, and I would like to start off by welcoming our first-time listeners and our returning listeners to the podcast. And I would like to tell everyone, I don't want people to stress. Please, for the love of God, do not stress out over things you cannot control. Only handle things that you can control. Please do not take on more things that you have on your plate this week. And for the people that know, this is the last week for kids actually in school for the month of November, as next week will be Thanksgiving. And at least for my neck of the woods, kids will be out all next week to enjoy Thanksgiving with their family, friends, associates, all that good stuff. So, just want to let everyone know, please do not stress yourself out this week. Please try to stay calm, because next week, whether people celebrate Thanksgiving or not, because again, I've said this countless of times for the last couple of weeks, I think Thanksgiving has kind of been canceled. If you've been seeing everything out there, people are not really paying attention to Thanksgiving like that. People are already looking forward to Christmas. Well, for the people that will be celebrating Thanksgiving with the festivities, with the food and all that type of stuff, next week will be the time for you to be stressing out, because that's whenever you gotta get everybody together. People will be coming to your crib. People will be trying to eat, all that stuff. So that'll be the time where people really will try to stress out because of doing the whole cooking and everything like that. So this week isn't really for that. I would just try to say, take care of what you can take care of. Don't stress out over things that you aren't able to take care of this week, because life's too short. And I know that's a easy thing for people to say. This sounds like something that people just throw away a lot, but going on what's going on in today's time, people are dropping like flies because of stress, and not just because of stress, but because of other things like physical ailments, mental ailments. I don't want stress to be a part of that, because stress is a silent killer. So again, please do not stress over things you cannot control. Please only take care of things you can control, and please, for the love of God, don't add more stress onto your plate, all right? So, with that said, now, it's time for me to move on to your National Food Days of the Week. Today, being November 16th, it is Fast Food Day. November 17th, Homemade Bread Day, as well as Baklava Day. November 18th, Apple Cider Day. November 19th, Macchiato Day. November 20th, Peanut Butter Fudge Day. November 21st, Stuffing Day, Gingerbread Cookie Day, as well as Cranberry Day. And then to round us out, November 22nd, Cranberry Relish Day. Now, with the National Food Days out the way, it is now time for me to move on into the news that happened this week. Before I get into U.S. news, I have to talk about international news. And the first thing I do want to talk about is the Pope. The Pope has decided to return 62 artifacts to the indigenous people from Canada. The Associated Press would write up an article about it. They would say in the article that the Vatican on Saturday returned 62 articles from its vast collection to the indigenous people from Canada as part of the Catholic Church reckoning with its role in helping suppress indigenous culture in the Americas. Pope Leo XIV gave the artifacts, including an iconic kayak and supporting documentation, to the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops, which said it would return the items to indigenous communities as soon as possible. A joint statement from the Vatican and Canadian Church described the pieces as a gift and a concrete sign of a dialogue, respect, and fraternity. So let me just make this perfectly clear. I hope that this is true. I hope that they do give back those artifacts. I know they said 62. I'm hoping they're giving them back more than just 62 if it's the real deal. But since they're at the beginning stages, 62 is fine. They are saying that the artifacts are expected to land in Montreal on December 6th and be taken to the Canadian Museum of History in Ottawa, which will be arranged for them to be united with their originating communities. Okay, I don't like that it's been taken to a museum. I hope that the people that they took it from, the indigenous people, that culture, whoever let's say they have a tribe leader. I hope that their tribe leader is there to kind of look at those items and kind of get those items back and be brought to the indigenous people that they were taken from, because museums all across the world have items that don't belong to the people that are more likely there. Usually those items have been taken from people that have been either suppressed or taken from people that they came and just dominated over and just took those items from other individuals, cultures, tribes, communities. You know what I mean? I would like to see people give back artifacts that they know that don't belong to them, that don't belong to that culture, that don't belong to that community, and be reunited back to the community, the tribes that they originally came from or were stolen from. So to see the Pope do this, that's a great thing. I hope that's a first step. And if the Pope's able to do this, I'm hoping that other communities that have artifacts that don't belong to them will take that step and do what the Pope did and reunite artifacts that don't belong to them back to their original owners. I am happy to see that. Now, that's one thing that happened in international news. The next thing that I do want to bring about is an update, and it's an update from the heist that happened in France. I want to say, towards the end of October, early November. As of right now, they have captured 4 of the suspects that they said that did this robbery. As I said, ABC News wrote an article about it. They would say 4 arrests were made in connection with the heist at the French Museum last month, but the stolen crown jewels remain missing. As the investigation into the robbery continues, authorities have yet to recover the missing jewels valued at $102 million, even though the 4 suspects have been charged in connection with the heist. Now, the 4 suspects are 3 men, all in the range of their mid to late 30s, and a woman who is 38. She has been released from custody on Wednesday, but all of the other 3 men, they're still in custody. For people that don't remember this, there was a robbery that happened, again, late October, and they took 8 pieces of jewelry there, 2 tiaras, 2 necklaces, 2 pair of earrings, a bow brooch, and another brooch. Excuse me, I don't know how to say that word because I don't really keep up with that. But all these pieces have thousands of diamonds on them, emeralds on them, and sapphires on them. And they have historical context to it, so that kind of makes the value of these jewelries go up. So again, $102 million worth of jewels gone. The woman is now out of custody, and the 3 guys that they said did this with the woman are still in custody. I'm gonna say this right now. For people that are going to do a robbery like this, I would say, 1, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't. Just start off with that. I don't think you should try to pull off an Ocean 13 or any other type of heist at a museum like this, because you might ultimately end up getting caught. Now, there's always that slim possibility that you won't get caught. You actually will be able to get away with it, but usually people get caught. Now, when I first reported on this, I hoped that the people didn't get caught. I hoped that the jewels would get bust down because, again, I don't ever like the idea of historical artifacts in museums. We've seen it happen too many times now where museums will have historical artifacts, the actual pieces of art in there. And people will either try to steal it, people will either try to vandalize the art piece, take the jewelry, all these type of things. And I would think that a museum would learn from that now. I would think that a museum would have like fakes of those pieces inside of their museum. That's what I would have thought museums would have learned by now. There's been too many times we've seen this happen. And for that not to be the case here, I would think, and I hope that other museums learn from this museum mistake. One. That's one. Two, I don't think right now that they're going to find the jewelry. I think right now the jewelry is kind of being flown or shown around the dark web, dark market. If not that, the people that did the heist, they hid those jewels quite well. And for the woman that has been released, I will say to you, do not try to go to those jewels. They are watching you. They are having you under surveillance. I would say give it a year or some type before you ever try to look or go after those jewels again. I would say if you have someone that you can trust, I would say tell them the location of said jewelry and make them go and make sure that the jewels are there, or have them go find it, grab it, hide it somewhere like that, and make sure that they tell you where to look after and all that type of stuff. Because again, I don't know if the police is going to find it. I don't. Now, people will say you shouldn't be rooting for them to hide the jewels and you should be rooting for them to bring the jewels back. Again, I want people to learn their lessons with things of this nature. Again, too many things have happened. Too many times we've seen people do stupid things like this, and I want people to learn from museums. So hopefully that'll be the case here with that. But yeah, right now the jewels are still missing. They caught the 4 suspects, quote unquote. Again, the woman is out. The 3 other dudes are in. They're probably trying to squeeze the information out of the dudes, but time will tell if it will get squeezed out. So with that, that is your international news that I do have to bring to you here. And now with that, it's now time for me to move over to the U.S. news. But before I do that, it's time for me to talk about some condolences here. First one I do want to make mention of is ABC former correspondent and also 2020 correspondent Jim Avila. He died at the age of 69. Jim Avila is an award-winning journalist who was a senior correspondent for ABC News and worked at the news outlet for 17 years. He died. He was 69. ABC News president announced Avila's death in a memo to staff Thursday, saying that a former colleague of ours, Jim Avila, passed away after a long illness. He was at home in San Diego, according to his family, CBS News will report. They will put out a memo, and I'm talking about ABC News president would put out a memo about Jim, saying that Jim was a gifted journalist and a generous colleague. Over an extensive career in journalism, Jim worked in several local and network news roles, and his reporting spanned events of national and international importance, from the September 11th attacks to the wars in Iraq and Persian Gulf. His work earned him multiple Emmys and Edward R. Murrow Awards, among other honors. He also covered some of the highest profile cases and trials, including those involving O.J. Simpson, Michael Jackson, and Jerry Sandusky. We thank him for his many contributions and unwavering commitment to seeking out the truth. So that was ABC's way of giving their honor and giving an homage to Jim Avila. And for him to work there for 17 years, being a guy that's on TV, to be held responsible to cover some of the big news topics and big news coverage that happened during that time. I'm glad that they did honor him with that, and they did make mention of his passing. So again, I do want to say rest in peace to Jim Avila, and I want to give condolences to his family, give condolences to colleagues, anyone that worked with him in the journalism realm. So again, rest in peace to Jim Avila. And still sticking in condolences here, I want to talk about the coach that was shot Thursday, who ended up passing away on Friday, John Beam. He was a college football coach. He was on the Netflix documentary series Last Chance U. Beam was shot at Laney College on Thursday. The shooting happened before noon at the community college. Acting Oakland Police Chief James Beer said police received reports of the shooting in and around the campus. Officers found Beam with a gunshot wound, and he was taken to a local hospital. As we all know, he passed away Friday, right? They would say an arrest was made in connection to the shooting, and according to the Oakland Police Department, Cedric Irving, 27, is in custody. The Beam family will put out a statement saying, "We are devastated that John Beam, our loving husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, coach, mentor, and friend, has passed. Our hearts are full for the outpouring of love and support from all who cared about him. We are deeply grateful for your continued prayers, well wishes, and thoughts. At this time, we kindly ask everyone to fully respect our family's privacy." So that was the memo or the statement from the Beam family. And again, I just think that the people that know the Beam family from that area will give them that privacy, give them that respect. And again, rest in peace to John Beam. I'm hoping that more information will come about why this man, Cedric Irving, did shoot John Beam, and we'll get some type of justification, at least not for us, but for the family's understanding of why that happened, why their father, brother, grandfather, all these titles under John Beam was taken from them. But we'll wait and see with that. But again, rest in peace to John Beam, and again, condolences to family, friends, and colleagues that worked with that man. Now, moving off of the condolences part of the show here, it's time for me to move over into the news that happened in the United States. And I got to talk about the government, because the government shutdown did end. So before I do that, I do got to say this to let people know what type of time I'm on. The thoughts and opinions that you're about to hear about the government comes directly from G2. Only G2. All right. This podcast, I want to let everyone know, it's not a Republican podcast. It's not a Democratic podcast. Okay. I am not pushing any type of agenda for any political party. I am just a guy that's stating the news and giving my opinions on the news and giving my opinions on the government. Okay. So just want to make that perfectly clear. All thoughts and opinions that you're about to hear are of mine and mine alone. So with that said, now it's time for me to talk about the government. As I said, the government shutdown is over. The House and the Senate, the people that had to vote on it, they ended it. Trump signed it in. So the longest government shutdown in, I want to say they said this is in American history, has finally got done. I'm not happy that people's insurance rates, their premiums, all that type of stuff is going to be going up. I hate that, because again, you're just going to be taking money out of people's pockets. Even though you guys were doing it already with the government shutdown, people weren't getting paid. But yeah, going into 2026, or as we're going to be in 2026, people's insurance are going to be going up. People's health insurance is going to be going up. And that just sucks. That's something that the Democrats were trying to fight for, to make sure that people's health insurance didn't go up, but they lost that battle. And yeah, man, it sucks for them. It sucks for the American people, but people are back to work. People have been back to work. Let me correct that. But people are now going to be getting a check. The federal workers are going to be getting a check. And I feel that that's right, but I feel that this is completely wrong. And it's not wrong for them to be getting a check. It's wrong that the congressmen and women up there, the people that are in the House, in the Senate, the people that actually make the decisions whether to open the government or close the government. During the government shutdown, they were getting paid. Not the federal workers, not the guys that were flying the planes, TSA workers, all the other federal workers out there. They weren't getting paid. But you have your congressmen and women, they were getting paid. That just doesn't seem right to me. That's something that needs to change, but that will never change. The people at the top will never ever make that change. I feel a real person that believes in trying to make the system work effectively would actually make that change, because if that change were to be made, where the congressmen and women, if a government shutdown were to ever happen again, they were the ones to not get a check, and the federal workers were, they would get that situated, I say, within a day. Or if not a day, about 2 days or 3 days, because they're not going to go 42 days without a check the same way that the federal workers did this time. If it wasn't 42, it was 43. That's just not going to happen for them. They're going to get their check. They're going to get their money. So I hope somewhere down the line, someone in politics has the cojones to make that change and make that apply to them. But I don't think it will, because you will have people on both sides actually not riding with that. But again, man, a guy can dream, right? Anyway, moving off of the government now being reopened. Another thing that was kind of attached to that was the Epstein files, Epstein emails. We have more emails that have been unloaded to the people. The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released emails upon emails about Donald Trump and Epstein. And I want to read you something here from the Associated Press. In the article, it will say Jeffrey Epstein wrote in the 2019 email to a journalist that Donald Trump knew about the girls according to documents made public Wednesday. But what he knew and whether it pertained to sex offenders' crimes is unclear. The White House quickly accused Democrats of selectively leaking the emails to smear the presidents. As I said, the Democrats released 3 emails referring Trump, including one Epstein wrote in 2011, in which he told confidant Ghislaine Maxwell that Trump had spent hours at Epstein's house with a sex trafficking victim. The disclosures seemed designed to raise new questions about Trump's friendship with Epstein and about what knowledge he may have had regarding what prosecutors call a years-long effort by Epstein to exploit underage girls. In a 2011 email released by the Democrats, they redacted the name of the victim, but Republicans on the committee later said it was Virginia Graffi, but it was the woman Virginia that ultimately accused Prince Andrew of messing with her at Epstein's Island. Okay. She would say that Trump couldn't have been any nicer. Trump was not part of the men that victimized her. Okay. In a court deposition, she said under oath that she didn't believe Trump had any knowledge of Epstein's misconduct with underage girls. And in her recently released memoir, she described meeting Trump only once when she worked as a spa attendant at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, and did not accuse him of wrongdoing. Virginia wrote that she was introduced to Trump by her father, who also worked at the club. She described Trump as friendly and said he offered to help her get babysitting jobs with parents at the club. So from Virginia's side of things, Trump has always been friendly to her, didn't do anything with her, and she doesn't know, at least from her words, that Trump knew of Epstein's nastiness. Now, that's just one person's say of this one of the girls. Now, if they talk to any of the other girls that probably was at Epstein's Island, that was around Epstein and around a lot of these other big figures, only they will know if Trump knew something about it or not. All right. But continuing on, going more into it, more emails will come out about Epstein, talking about Trump, saying that he's a vile and evil man. Even right here, again, in CNN, they will talk about it or write about it. Epstein wrote of Trump in 2018, I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief, mad. He feels alone and is nuts. Several months later, in the text message to a recipient whose name is redacted, an unidentified person wrote to Epstein, it will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that. To which Epstein replied, yes, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down. So that's just one of the emails that they're talking about with Epstein with Trump. In a 2011 email to Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein described Trump as a dog that hasn't barked. It's unclear what he's referring to. In the 2015 December email, Epstein wrote to author Michael Wolff about how Trump might handle questions about his past relationship with Epstein. And at this time, Trump was running for president. In a February 2017 email to former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, Epstein wrote of Trump, I have met some very bad people. None as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. Now, you had the White House. They fully rejected the suggestion that Trump knew about Epstein's activities. We all know this. The press secretary will say that the emails proved absolutely nothing and repeated their claim that Trump expelled Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, a point Epstein seemingly referred in the newly released emails. Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever, Epstein wrote in January 2019. Now, on Friday, Trump did accuse the Democrats of trying to revive attention to his past ties with Epstein and said he would ask the Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Epstein's ties to other high-profile figures. Trump would write on Truth Social, "I'll be asking Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice together with our great patriots at the FBI to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan, Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him." So that's what's happening. I do know that Pam Bondi said that she would get on it. So at the time right now, people are already speculating that Pam Bondi will do the bidding of Trump, look into Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with Bill Clinton and all of other Donald Trump ops or opposition, if you will. I'm going to say this. If she's going to do that, she also does need to look more into Trump as well. Look into everyone that was at the freaking Epstein Island. Everyone. Anyone that was photographed with Epstein at his island. Because you guys have the photos. You need to rein them in and ask them questions about it. You also need to rein in the women that have been talking about they're going to release their own files, their own list of names, that was at the island. You need to do your job as the Department of Justice, because again, the Epstein's files, the whole Epstein list thing, that has been something that people have been talking up for years, because that was one of the things, if I'm not mistaken, that the Republican Party was really trying to gung-ho for and try to have them being released. And now with their guy or their pseudo guy, because I don't think a lot of Republicans truly like Trump. They're just not going to stand up to him the way that they need to. I don't think, the Republican Party was running on, if Trump gets in, they'll release the Epstein's files. But since now Trump's in it, that file has constantly been like, we're not going to release the file. The file's not important, all this and all that. But since now the House and the Senate came back and the Democrats got the votes that they needed to for everything to be released, now we're seeing it being on a red alert from Trump and his side. And even some Republicans, I will say, they're happy that the list is being released, information about Jeffrey Epstein's being released. And I would like to say this. I hope that they continue on. I'm hoping that more information will come out about Jeffrey Epstein. I'm hoping that more people that were nasty, men and or women, because again, not just men were there. I'm pretty sure women were there and they were doing some foul things with some of these underage individuals that were there. They have to be called to the carpet. They have to be called to task. They have to be name called and ridiculed and all these type of things that we do whenever people do something nasty and foul, the way that Jeffrey Epstein did and was convicted of, the way that Ghislaine Maxwell did and was convicted of. We have to call these people to the carpet, and we have to do that. And again, Trump is calling for the Department of Justice to look into his opposition, but I'm also hoping that someone under the Department of Justice will look into Trump as well. Because if Jeffrey Epstein is writing this much emails about Donald Trump constantly, that tells you their relationship is just more than buddy or he was just a business associate of mine and I had to ask him to relieve himself once I found out or once we found out about him doing what he do. No, you guys were close together, or at least he thought you guys were close together, and he probably knows some things about you. You probably do know some things about him, but somehow you're older now. And again, real old man running the country. You probably did forget certain things. You probably didn't. Again, benefit of the doubt here. But the people that are running this investigation, they got to look into it. They got to look into everyone who was there. And that's what I'm hoping for. So again, what more emails, what more documentation coming out about Jeffrey Epstein and him talking about Trump. And I'm just hoping that the people at the top, again, they'll do Trump's bidding, because they will. Because again, he is the face that's running the country. They're going to do it. But I do hope behind the scenes, in those little meetings that they do have, I hope that they do investigate Trump. That's what I am hoping for. So with that, that's Donald Trump's portion of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, moving off of that, I do want to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, though. Ghislaine Maxwell, she has been apparently receiving some special privileges, which isn't shocking to me, but I want to read this off to you guys here. People would write about it. They say Ghislaine Maxwell has customized meals delivered to cells and pets, puppies, among other special privileges. It was said that Ghislaine Maxwell, the longtime co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, is allegedly receiving special treatment in prison, Democrats on the House committee claimed. Maxwell, serving 20-year prison sentence following a sex trafficking conviction in 2021, is currently incarcerated at a federal prison in Texas. The Democrats said at a press release that a whistleblower came forward and revealed Maxwell's alleged favorable treatment. According to the whistleblower, one of Maxwell's perks is having meals that were customized and prepared by federal prison staff and then personally delivered to her in her cell by longtime federal employees. Other allegations include Maxwell being allowed to go to recreational areas after hours and her visitors being given access to a special location that's off area for visitors to arrive originally, as well as an assortment of snacks and refreshments for her guests. In one instance, according to the whistleblowers, an inmate who trains puppies was instructed to give one to Maxwell for a period of time so she could play with the puppy, even though neither inmates nor staff are ordinarily allowed to pet the service puppies in training. Now, that was what was reported. NBC and CBS reported that Maxwell was seeking time reduced from her sentence from President Donald Trump, but that has not happened. But that is what has been alleged from the whistleblower to the Democrats. But here's the thing. That's kind of what I suspected. Personally, that's kind of low on the list for me, if I'm going to be honest with you. I would have thought she would have had her own, room, and I thought they would have gave details of how lavish the room would be for Ghislaine Maxwell or something like that. And it's not saying that her room probably isn't, well, I'm not going to say lavish, but better than all the other cellies in there, but that wasn't reported. Her getting customized, personalized food, that's kind of on the list, because if you lived a good life outside of prison, you're not going to go to prison willing to eat crappy food. So yeah, that's a perk that was going to happen without a doubt. Especially, remember, she talked to people in the government, the Department of Justice earlier this year. And again, it would pertain to the Jeffrey Epstein files and the list, and it was about Donald Trump. And she spoke favorably of Trump, saying that Trump knew nothing. So she's, again, taking up her part of the bargain, at least for me. I think there was a deal kind of struck for her to say favorable things about Trump. That's just my thoughts. That's not factual, because it hasn't been proven, but that's just my thoughts. But she did, it was alleged that she did have some, she had some requirements to talk if she's going to do the talking with the DOJ at the time. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just one of them, or these are just a couple of them. And these are low for me personally. Again, I thought she would have asked for some, outside time. I understand they said she has time, personal time in the rec center. I thought she would have some time literally outside the prison, like have her do some drive still inside of a police car or something, but her being drove around, something like that, to get some fresh air that way, away from the prison. I thought that was going to be a part of the situation. And some more probably outlandish things that she, again, could get because she kind of holds the keys for Trump in quote unquote his participation or non-willingness. All depends on who you believe about Trump and Epstein and their relationship of the situation. But yeah, man, that's just me reading this and me seeing this. This was kind of like a duh. Ghislaine was going to get these type of perks. So anyone that thought that she wasn't, I don't know what to tell you. It's just, you know, when you see mafia movies, and I always got to revert back to this because movies and television shows, they come from real life experiences. If you watch, prime example, Goodfellas, there's a scene where the mob or the big mob leaders get arrested, right? They go off to prison and they're in their cell, but it's not like a regular cell. It's like a big cell, like a living room size situation where it has a kitchen, it has a dining table, it has like things that you wouldn't see from other regular cellies. Where do you think, or what do you think Ghislaine Maxwell is going to or should have if she was close to Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was close to the president, and right now they're looking into Epstein and looking into Trump to see if he knew about it and if he was as nasty as Epstein. And for her to hold it down the way that she did, what makes you think she wasn't going to get special accommodations? That's just my thing to this. I want people to be realistic with these type of things. That's it. That's what I'm saying with Ghislaine Maxwell. So again, Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly getting special perks doesn't shock me, and it shouldn't shock the American people at all. Now, before I get out of government news, I do want to say this for the people outside of the United States, and this is talking about U.S. visas. I do want to report this to you guys here. The Washington Post will write up that the U.S. visas can be denied for obesity, cancer, and diabetes. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told United States consultees and embassies around the world about the changes in a November 6th cable, according to a copy obtained and verified by the Washington Post. The Trump administration has directed visa officers to consider obesity and other chronic health conditions such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes as a reason to deny foreigners visas to the United States. The move broadens current medical screening beyond contagious diseases and gives visa officers new justification to reject applicants in the Trump administration's latest effort to curb the flow of immigration. I don't like that. And I mean, when I say this, I don't like that at all because you guys were just kicking out people that you guys deemed not worthy to be here, right? Because they didn't go through the right paperwork or their visas were expired or they were doing wrong. Okay. You kick them out, send them out and say, go through the right channels, go through the right process to obtain your visas that you can come back into the United States. Okay. And even so, you had people that were willing and did leave the United States, right? And they're going to go through the right channels in your eyes to obtain a visa. So now they're going through the paperwork. Now they have to worry if they're going to be denied for obesity. What? Okay. A doctor can determine what someone is obese or unfit, right? Are you going to give your visa officers the medical list for how someone's supposed to weight? Because if someone weighs, or someone like, okay, height 5'7", and they weigh 220. Certain people might say that is fat. And like, that's borderline, you're about to be obesity type of situation, right? Because certain people don't work out. They might, again, just a general term, just being general with it. 5'7", 220. Some people might say that's fat, almost going obesity. Maybe. Okay, I'm just throwing out numbers here. Okay. I just don't like that idea of this thing. I like the thought that, okay, they followed what you wanted. They left the country. They're trying to do it your way, and they're going to go through the route to do the whole paperwork. But now they got another hurdle to come through. If they have cancer, what do you mean they can't come to the United States because they got cancer? That shouldn't hurt the United States. That shouldn't be a thing that the United States or the officers can stop you from coming into the United States, from working here, or even trying to get a better life here because you have cancer. No, that doesn't rock with me. If you have diabetes, again, that doesn't rock with me at all. If you go and try to deny people from the fact of living here, working here, going through, again, your right channels that you tell them to do, you're going to stop them because they have diabetes. Again, I just don't rock with these things, man. I don't. I'm just letting people know that are outside of the United States that are trying to get a U.S. visas, just be on the lookout that you could be denied because they might consider you obese. They might deny you because you have cancer, and they could deny you now because you have diabetes. Just want to let you guys know that, just for the people that are trying to enter the United States now and try to get a visa. Just want to let you guys know if your country didn't tell you guys about the U.S. now. So with that, now that's the end of my government news. Now let me talk about other news that happened in the U.S. I want to talk about Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a pneumonia gas leak that came from a tanker truck. Associated Press would write about it. This happened Wednesday night, right? An oil field worker staying at a hotel where the truck had been parked said he heard a faint pop Wednesday night and noticed a smell minutes later. He and a co-worker left the room and hustled into a hallway and then an elevator filled with the pungent odor. Once outside, they saw their vehicles underneath a cloud of pneumonia. The smell itself punched me, that worker would say. Officials lifted a shelter-in-place order Thursday morning, hours after firefighters wearing gas masks went door to door in Weatherford, waking people up and telling them to leave because of the pneumonia leak. Now, as has been mentioned, Thursday morning, they're done. Apparently, I'm not certain if they got all the pneumonia out, but I think for them to lift that and stay situation, you had to at least get a lot of the pneumonia smell out of the area. But at the time, it's been said that they had at least 34 people go to the hospital. 2 people were in critical conditions from this leakage. And at the time of me reporting this right now and bringing this out to you, there have been no cause of death from this pneumonia leak. And I'm hoping that that continues. I'm hoping that no one happens to develop any type of sickness from this pneumonia gas they probably did inhale in at that time. So again, it's just weird. It's weird, but we live in a weird time and a lot of weird stuff does happen. Things could just pop at a whim. So I do want people to just be alert when you're at a hotel or you see a trucker tank that's filled with this type of gas or something, whether you're driving or you're at a parking lot. Just be aware of those type of things, because again, this was probably a 1 in a million type of situation where this tanker had their thing pop and the gas did leak. But I've said it, we're living in a weird time, strange time, and things can happen. And imagine something like this happen on the road where people are driving. As this truck's driving, something pops, the gas starts filling the road up. That would suck. It would absolutely suck, and people would have to really pump their brakes. They're trying to get into a lot of crash because they wouldn't know what to do. I just say look out. Just be on the lookout. That's all I'll say with that. Hopefully, again, 1 in a million situation. Nothing like this ever happens again, but just be on the lookout when you see tanker trucks. That's all I will say to everyone out there, okay? But again, at the time of me saying this, people were reported to the hospital. Again, nobody lost their life, and I'm hoping this stays that way. Moving on to the next story. I can't say that someone didn't lose their life here, but a boss did. Now, this boss lost their life in 2019, and a trial is happening because of his co-workers were arrested for allegedly slaying their CEO, their boss. People would write up about it. They say kidnapped CEO was found slain in the mountains. His ex-employee on trial claims he made him do 500 push-ups for paychecks. Okay. The CEO, Tashar Atre, who was 50, was killed after being kidnapped from his upscale California home. Authorities arrested 4 people, including 2 of his ex-employees, Caleb Charters and Stephen Lindsay. Lindsay was convicted of first-degree murder following a jury trial earlier this year. The trial against Caleb Charters remains ongoing. All right. A tech CEO, as I just said, Tashir Atre, was killed in 2019, allegedly making his employees work grueling hours, chastised them for wasting his time, and made them do 500 push-ups for their paychecks. A jury heard last week from one of his suspected killers, per local reports. He was kidnapped from his upscale Santa Cruz County, California home and found murdered on a property in Santa Cruz Mountains in October 2019. Authorities arrested 23-year-old Joshua Camps, 22-year-old Curtis Charters, 22-year-old Stephen Lindsay, and 19-year-old Caleb Charters in connection with the killing, per the statement. Curtis, who is Caleb's brother, and Lindsay were convicted earlier this year of first-degree murder in separate trials. As Caleb's trial ensued this month, he told the jury that during a brief stint in August 2019, he and Lindsay worked for 10 days from dusk to dawn on Atre's cannabis farm and earned $200 a day. Caleb told the jury on Wednesday, November 5th, that on one occasion, he and Lindsay were humiliated by Atre after they briefly lost the keys to one of his cannabis farm's trucks. When they eventually located the keys, Atre chastised them for wasting his time, Carter said in court, because he claimed his time was worth a lot of money. Atre, who Charters testified was about to stop their checks, then ordered him and Lindsay to do 500 push-ups for $1,400. Now, witnesses corroborated the information about the push-ups, and another witness did corroborate that Atre did operate a toxic workspace, prompting an inside joke among his employees about him being robbed. And also Atre's close assistant and confidant, Sam Borges, testified last month and gave a similar account, claiming while he and Atre maintained a close and positive relationship, the tech millionaire ran a tight machine and created a hostile work environment, sometimes withholding paychecks from his employees. So this is just telling me that Atre was a dick of a boss, which doesn't shock me with a lot of bosses, especially in this time and day and age, because people are just being more brazen and bold in feeling that they can do whatever they want to their employees, which I don't understand why bosses feel that way, because you do know your employees make your company run, right? I understand you might say, well, they're the little cogs on the machine. You can always replace them. But how many times can you replace that cog before that machine happens to go down? I just want to make sure that bosses know you can't constantly treat employees like dirt. I hope they do know this. Now, having said that about a boss, as an employee as well, you do know you can say something back to your boss. As long as you know that you might get fired, just know you can say something back to them. And just do it with as much respect. Or if you had enough, hey man, let loose. I understand people might say that's the worst thing to say, but dog, listen, there's only so much crap someone can take. And me personally, I'm not the guy or the type that will constantly continue to be putting up with crap over and over and over again. I know there's a lot of people that are in workplaces that are exactly like me. They voice their opinion and all that type of stuff. And guess what? Whether bosses like to admit it or not, they respect you for it. Bosses might be aggravated with you, but they know at least that's not the person we're going to go to if we need something. We can go for them for some things, but if we constantly go to them for something, guess what? They're going to crash out and then they're going to end up saying something about it. And we don't want that to happen. So they know ultimately they're not going to go to you for things of that magnitude. They're going to go for you for a couple things, but not a lot like that. And again, you have to stick up for yourself. You have to constantly stick up for yourself in a job. I don't think this boss was supposed to make you do 500 push-ups to gain your checks. How is someone going to stop your paychecks? It just doesn't seem right to me that a boss has that situation or that type of power to do so, especially when you're working. Again, back to the government shutdowns, full circle here. You work, you get paid. That's kind of how that whole employer-employee situation relationship works. And for one person to do their part and another person not, that's kind of a problem. And I just wish that this didn't happen. Again, not a lot of people know about this case. I didn't know about this case until I read about this. And again, man, it just sounds like employees just had a real bad time and they just got fed up of it. Now, I am sad to hear, because I don't know the man personally, I am sad to hear that the boss ultimately got his life taken because he was a dickhead. But this also tells everyone, don't be a dickhead as a boss. If someone does work for you, pay them. Don't be a dickhead to them. If you need something done, yes, you go to them, say, I need this done. Yes, they might get on your nerves. Yes, they might do something stupid. And in this case, they're talking about losing one of his keys for allotment of time. And he ends up being pissed when they find the key. Yes, you can be pissed all you want, but you don't fuss at your employees. You keep that honed inside of you and you fuss inside your car. You fuss inside your home. You don't do that to your employees because, again, you never ever know who you might be snapping on, because that employee might be able to take it and some employees might not, because you never ever know. So again, I am sad that a boss did happen to pass away because of this. And I am sad that the employees felt that their only choice was to kill their boss. And again, this is all alleged right now until everyone has been convicted of this so far, as has already been stated. Lindsay, former employee, has been pled guilty. Okay, so we can say that you got that, but Caleb is still going trial now. So again, man, I am hoping that justice does prevail, but also let this be a learning lesson for our bosses and employees. If you're a boss, don't treat your employees like a dickhead. If they're doing the work for you, again, you can be mad at them, but just don't try to yell and chastise them and all that crap that a lot of bosses do. And also, if you are an employee, if your boss is doing it all that crap to you, you know you can just leave the job, find another job, right? I understand people might say, well, they're not paying as much. Trust me, your sanity is worth way more than money like that. I know money helps because money pays the bills, money makes the world go around in this system that we're in. But your sanity plays a big part, because without your sanity, guess what? You're not going to hold the job, which means you're not going to be able to make money. So please choose your sanity when it comes down to money or sanity, please. Okay. Now, with that, now it's time for some entertainment news, but we're still dealing in the justice system here because ESPN would put out an article saying that the Guardians pitcher Emmanuel Class pleads not guilty to pitch rigging. Cleveland Guardians pitcher pleaded not guilty Thursday to charges that he took bribes to help gamblers win bets on his pitches. The 27-year-old reliever was released on a $600,000 bail following his appearance in Brooklyn federal court. He also had to surrender his passport and was ordered to limit his travel to New York and Ohio, refraining from gambling and submit to GPS monitoring. Okay. Here's my thing with this. Again, I saw what they're talking about. They say that one of the pitches that he threw it into the dirt. Right here. Prosecutors say he threw rigged pitches on the first pitch of an at-bat, making sure to throw the ball in the dirt and well outside the strike zone in order to assure the umpire to call it a ball rather than a strike. Here's my thing, man. Dog, bribing and bets are part of the sports game now. You guys have tried to keep it out as much as you can for as long as you can, but with too many gambling companies out there with your Prize Picks, with your what's the other one? Stake, DraftKings. There's so many others of them, but with so many gambling sites out there, you better believe people are going to gamble. The athletes, they're going to partake in the gambling. They're going to help out their people. They're going to help out themselves, because who else can rig the game but me? If you're in the game, I can rig it for me. I can rig it for my people to make sure that we win this money the way that we are supposed to. So again, I'm not saying that Homeboy did it, but what do you expect when you guys are literally doing sponsorships and doing deals with these gambling companies? You expect your players not to make money, but you guys, the organization, can make money. It just doesn't make sense to me. So again, I hope Homeboy is found not guilty. I'm hoping that all of the superstars, whether you're in baseball, hockey, football, basketball, you guys find a way in the loophole to make sure you guys can gamble. Because if your organization is on these gambling sites, best believe these organizations are making money off the gambling. You, the athletes, are not making money off the gambling. You guys should be, because you guys are the product. So again, I'm hoping that that does change. I'm hoping that you guys do get some type of compensation, or you guys find a way around this thing that you guys are in, because for them to be making money off y'all backs the way that they were already doing before, but now with gambling on it and you guys not, I just don't see it being right. And people might say, well, that's tainting the integrity of the game. The game got tainted whenever your company started to started to get in bed with these bookings and these gambling sites. That's when the game got already in tainted, and they were already tainted way beforehand too, because you already had some of your superstars making bets. It just was never ever announced to the public, because best believe they paid off the commission. They made sure to keep that stuff under wrap and under load too. But now, again, the companies are now in bed with these gambling sites. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm hoping that Homeboy gets found not guilty. And again, I'm hoping that all the athletes do find a way to run circles around these legal system to make sure you guys don't gamble. I really do hope that you guys do able to find a way. All right. What else do I have to make mention of? Tom Brady. Tom Brady's New York store, where apparently it's all about selling cards, whether it be Pokemon cards, sports cards, anything of collectible. They have been robbed, apparently. They were robbed of $10,000 in Pokemon and baseball cards. That's what has been alleged here. They were robbed in October 20th, but the police department said on November 12th, they released information to People magazine. So I'm pretty sure they're asking for the people to kind of help them out here. They're saying that the man stole $9,710 in collectible baseball and Pokemon cards at around 11:40 a.m. on October 20th, and an unidentified suspect attempted to purchase merchandise using a credit card. But the transaction was declined, and the suspect began to enter manual prompts into the contact payment terminal without the employee's knowledge to bypass the transaction being declined, the NYPD news release said. He left the store and traveled southbound on Lafayette Street. No one was injured in the robbery. So right now they are trying to look for the man. They have photos for him. So, I mean, if you're in the New York area, if you happen to know who to do this, I mean, they want you to try to call up on and say who he is. But, hey, man, again, it's a world out here. You don't know if he was trying to just get those cards for himself or get those cards for the family. Because, again, holiday time is coming up. So, again, I don't know what to say about that. It sucks to hear about someone's store being robbed, but things like this happen during holiday times. It does. It doesn't make it right, but it is what it is on that. So, again, I am hoping that justice comes for that and does prevail in that, all right? Two more things. Jeremy Renner. If you guys remember last Sunday, I talked about Jeremy Renner. He was being accused by a woman that says that he was in a relationship with her, that he was abusive or just not well to her and even threatened to call ICE on her, right? Jeremy Renner has decided to have his representatives speak for him or his attorney and send a cease and desist to that lady last Friday, demanding that she stop making defamatory comments about him. And a representative for Renner told Variety that the allegations being made about him are totally inaccurate and untrue. So that's what Homeboy had to say, or at least his representation had to say, which was smart because there's only so much you can say, especially in this day and age and time. So again, I don't think this was going to amount to nothing. I think Jeremy Renner's still going to have a career in Hollywood as he already was already. And hey, it is what it is with that. Last thing, Cardi B. She has given birth to her 4th child and her first with her boyfriend, Stefan Diggs. I want to say congratulations to Cardi B and congratulations to Stefan Diggs about their birth of their child. She will tell a representative to confirm to today, well, the NBC show Today on November 13th. So she's given birth. Congratulations once again to Cardi B and Stefan Diggs. And I hope that baby is healthy, and I hope nothing but health and prosperity to you and yours and the rest of both of your families. All right. So with that said, I believe that's everything that I do want to discuss. So now it's time for me to get you guys out of here. I would like to thank all the podcasting sites for having me on here, whether it be Apple, Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon. All the other podcasting sites for having me out here. Because without them, I wouldn't have been able to get this podcast out to you guys, downloaders and listeners. So I would like to thank them. But I also like to thank you guys, downloaders and listeners. Because you guys can be listening to anything in the world, but you guys decide to download the episode and listen to me, and I appreciate that so much. Whether you listen to it in your house, in your car, in the gym, in your headphones, with a loved one, or even a coworker, I really do appreciate it. And I really do mean this when I say this. I appreciate everybody from not just in the United States, but everyone outside the United States for just tuning into the podcast. I really do appreciate every single one of you guys. So, with that said, always remember,
I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you.
I do love you guys. That is not a gimmick. I appreciate and love every single one of you guys for tuning into the podcast. And once again, I will be back again with another episode of this podcast for the Wednesday episode where I talk about any and everything for 10, 15, 20 minutes. That's a midweek breakdown episode. You can check me out there. If you watch professional wrestling, I talk about that on my Thursday and Saturday episodes. So you can go and listen to those out right now. And if you just want to hear me talk about the news once again, I do that in long form content, as you guys can tell, on my Sunday episodes like this one. So again, I will be back. Those are the days that I do drop episodes, so to let you guys know. So with that said, this has been the My Two Cents podcast, presented by and hosted by G2. He is I and I am him. This isn't goodbye. This is until you hear from the sweet sounding voice again. And with that being said, Kanye, could you please take these people home?
I'm tired, you tired, Jesus wept.